Hello everybody and welcome to the Lowdown Extra. That's right, a bit of a shorter episode for you today. The regular Lowdown will be on your screens later this week, but we thought we'd do a little special given that it's deadline day or mini deadline day, 10th of June, and we're going to be looking at Chelsea, one of the most active clubs in the transfer window so far, of course, about to compete in the Club World Cup too. We're going to be breaking down some of the done deals and potential deals and assessing whether they've won the transfer window so far. Dukes, let's kick off at left wing. Jamie Gittens, tell me a bit about this potential deal.
Yeah, well, Chelsea have already made the big decision to send Jadon Sancho back to Man United, refusing that £25 million option to buy. So there is a slot there on that left wing area, and Jamie Gittens is the player that's been linked with a move back to the Premier League for the last two windows. Liverpool were interested in him in January as well. Now Chelsea have entered the fray. They had a first offer of £29.5 million rejected by Borussia Dortmund over the weekend. Dortmund supposedly holding out for closer to £40 to £50 million. But as you say, this is a guy that has created a lot of headlines with his performances this season. People got very excited about the steps he took forward. As a 20-year-old Englishman, he'd be a homegrown asset for Chelsea as well, which could be very handy in terms of building that squad for the Champions League. But he did take a big step forward last season. So he only started 14 league games in 23-24. That jumped to 21 last term. And there was 8 goals and 3 assists in the league. And he scored in some big games as well. He scored a brace against Frankfurt. He scored against Leverkusen. He scored against Bayern. He scored against Gladbach. He scored against Real Madrid in the Champions League. It is worth noting, as so many people have pointed out on social media, that he did fade quite significantly in the second half of the season. Now, I think that's partly down to, as a 20-year-old playing his first real full campaign of football, I think he slightly ran out of steam. Also, it has to be noted that after Nuri Sahin was fired in sort of January, February time, Niko Kovac arrived and implemented a 3-4-3 formation. And that didn't really suit Gittens' game because they were always going to start Guirassy up front. Adeyemi had a really strong end of the season. And then Julian Brandt provides more a bit natural creativity in that formation in more central zones. But with Chelsea in the way they play, they do like natural wide players that can cut in. And Gittens is exceptionally fast, very agile. His shooting went up exponentially last season as well. He got over 20% more of his shots on target. He took his shots from 19 yards to 17 yards. And it did lead to a massive overperformance in terms of his expected goals. The issues I have with Gittens is maybe some of his decision-making in the final third. His crossing still needs a little bit of work, and he's not the most natural creator at the moment. Trevor Chalobah actually had better expected assists per 90 than him last season. But given the fact that they've been linked with a move for Garnacho, who I think will cost considerably more than £40 to £50 million, you imagine, given Man United's need for financial impetus this summer, and given the fact that they've turned down Sancho for 25, if, for me, they could get Gittens, 5 years younger than Sancho, for around £15 to £20 million more, so around £45 million, I think it'd be a really strong deal. So we'll see whether this one happens at some stage during the summer. But a deal that could be done today, Mikey, at least Chelsea are pushing for it to be done today, is Mike Maignan from AC Milan.
But I feel like even if it doesn't get done today, Chelsea will still push for this, and eventually maybe they'll come to some sort of agreement where they, Milan end up getting about £20-25 million for their man. I think a lot of Chelsea's reasoning for lowballing them so much is because they sold Christian Pulisic for around €20 million to them 2 years ago when he had 1 year left on his deal. The difference being is that, Maignan is, one of the leadership figures at Milan. He's their number one goalkeeper. He's France's number one goalkeeper. Pulisic, by the time he left Chelsea, was really, not really in the picture in terms of a first team player, or at least a regular starter. I do sympathise with Milan in that sense, but I think that, the kind of keeper that Chelsea would be getting would be a clear upgrade on Robert Sanchez and anyone that they have at the moment. I know they've got a lot of young keepers on the books who could develop into really special talents, but I mean, France's number one keeper, he's won a Serie A with Milan. In that season when Milan won the league in 21-22, I think there was a good argument for him being the best shot stopper in world football, and Milan won the league despite not even having the first or second best attack in the division. It was very much their defence with Maignan there, Theo Hernandez, Kalulu, etc., Tomori. who really pushed them to victory. So I think, Chelsea would be getting, an absolute star here, and one who I think does need to rebuild confidence, but is a big character. The one drawback, I think, is his injury record hasn't been so good. Milan have suffered a lot in recent seasons when he's had lengthy periods out. So that would be one worry. But at the same time, Chelsea do have such a roster of keepers that I think, having an understudy to Maignan who can then come in is a much more favourable position to putting, a young goalkeeper under a lot of pressure behind that Chelsea defence when, next season they're going to be looking to push on and maybe even mount a credible title challenge. So, I think this would be a really, really positive move. Dukes, let's get on to a more prospective move here in Hugo Ekitike. Of course, Chelsea have already got the deal for Liam Delap done. We'll get on to that in a little bit. But, do you see anything in this, or do you think Chelsea will be happy to go with Delap and Nico Jackson as their number one strikers next season?
I think they definitely do, by all accounts, want a third striker. Ekitike and Šeško are apparently the names on the shortlist, but I think this will be incredibly difficult to get done, potentially at any stage during this summer window. Eintracht Frankfurt always sell very effectively. I think it's fair to say the fee they got for Kolomwani, for Jovic, for Marmoush, I know it was mid-season, but still that was a considerable fee. And supposedly they're asking for €100 million or £84 million for Ekitike, which would be, I think, the 7th most expensive signing in Premier League history. There'd be only one striker that's ever gone for more money, which was Romelu Lukaku when he went to Chelsea, which of course ended pretty disastrously. But there are so many positives to Ekitike's game that he surely will join an elite club in the next 12 months, I would have thought. If it's not this window, it will be January or potentially next summer if he continues at this trajectory. Because last season was absolutely remarkable. He scored 15 Bundesliga goals, 14 of which were non-penalties, and actually underperformed his expected goals by more than any player in Europe, which I don't say as a compliment, but it shows that it could have been even greater in terms of his season that he put together. He was at 0.99 expected goals and assists per 90, which basically means that every single game he's expected to provide a goal or an assist on the basis of the positions he gets into and the positions he puts his teammates into. So a really, really strong season from him. But there are some concerns in that 24-25 was his first season of playing over 1,300 league minutes. He had a great year at Reims a few years ago, then went to PSG, struggled to break into that first team as well. But this is a player that seemingly has enormous potential, very likened to Alexander Isak. It's just whether a club is ready to pay £84 million on a player that's had his first truly exceptional year at a top club. So I think this one might run and run. But I do think Chelsea will be looking to sign 3 strikers. I think it did really hurt them last year with Nicolas Jackson's form being so up and down at various points, not being able to call on Christopher Nkunku, who's really struggled to show anywhere close to his RB Leipzig form at Chelsea. And Mark Guiu was clearly one to just sort of potentially play in the Conference League in that group stage as well. But Mikey, they do have one striker through the door in Liam Delap, who's turned down a chance to play at the Under-21 Euros, who will be at the Club World Cup in Liam Delap, and that's got to be a big positive.
Oh, massive positive, really massive positive. I think, the Club World Cup, as much as it's been derided by clubs and fans, it is going to be a competitive competition. These clubs are in it to win a lot of money at the end. So having Liam Delap, travel to the States with Chelsea, play in a competitive tournament and really stake a claim for that number one spot so early in the summer, I think will be really positive. I mean, the negative is that he's barely had time to rest at all between the end of the season and now, but I guess he would have been going to the under-21 with the under-21s anyway. But nevertheless, I mean, I think Chelsea have got one of the bargains of the summer here. Yes, it was only his first Premier League season last year, but he was playing in a struggling Ipswich side, played almost every minute and, scored a ton of goals and just looked physically so ready for the league. He just looks like a player who can make things happen on his own as well, which I think is really important. I was thinking about this, there's been a lot of chat over the last kind of year or two about, Pep Guardiola's Man City have kind of ruined attackers for everyone, and that, all the wingers just like to cut in and pass back and everything. But then when you look at kind of the 3 of the most prominent English players to have come out of the Man City academy in recent years, Cole Palmer, James McAtee and Liam Delap, like, they all have real maverick tendencies, and they have this ability to really take the game by the scruff of the neck and beat a man and shoot and score from, low percentage angles. Like, these are not boring attackers. And I think seeing Liam Delap link up with Cole Palmer, who of course was with in the City Academy, I think will be really, really interesting to see. He could be exactly what Chelsea need in that forward line. And there's the added thing of, we go into this new season with Nicholas Jackson on a bit of a downturn, but we saw at the start of last season how good Nicholas Jackson bounced back from his first campaign at Chelsea, where, again, I think he was unduly criticised. I think there still is a really top attacker in Nicholas Jackson, which then takes pressure off Liam Delap to be performing every single week. And with the Champions League as well, they're having to compete on multiple fronts next season, and in obviously a much better competition than the Conference League. I think this Club World Cup campaign will be a really good tester for that.
Interesting. And also, I suppose it continues that relationship between Man City's academy and Chelsea's first team, with Palmer, Lavia, Gittens they're interested in, Delap, former Man City player as well, with Joe Shields joining from Man City. It feels like Chelsea at the moment, their Cobham graduates aren't really getting the minutes, but they are using another English team's academy to sign players for relatively young that are ready to take first team minutes and really develop. So let's see what happens there. And also, as we finish on Man City, in terms of who's won this mini window, it's very difficult to look past Man City themselves, to be fair, with Reinders already announced, ait-Nouri, Ryan Cherky's now confirmed as well. So if any team has won this mini window, it's Man City, but it's no surprise that the two clubs that are involved in the Club World Cup that have at least 3 games in the next few weeks, and potentially more given the standard of opposition they're playing against, have gone early in this window. So Liverpool, Arsenal fans, Man United fans, whoever you support, relax.
I think Liverpool fans are absolutely fine as well. I would argue that Liverpool have maybe won this mini window. I know they've not got Kirkes confirmed exactly official yet, but it looks like that deal's going to get done. It still feels like only a matter of time until the Wirtz deal gets done as well. And I just think, in terms of winning the window, but also setting a precedent for the new season, Liverpool being in this position of strength, having won the title by such a big margin, it feels like everyone else is just playing catch up at this point. I almost feel like Man City wouldn't be getting all these deals done if they didn't feel that pressure to catch up with Liverpool. Obviously, I think Cherky's an amazing signing, given that they couldn't get Wirtz. He's the next best thing. But I do still think that Liverpool are kind of already winning, because that psychological advantage they have in terms of strengthening what already is the best team in the country. Can't go amiss.
Okay, there we have it, guys. Who do you think has won the window so far? Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, or another team? Let us know in the comments below. We'll be back on Thursday for a full-length episode of The Lowdown. Thank you very much for watching this one, and we'll catch you then. Bye-bye.